What did you see, old man?
Godzilla. 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 Godzilla! Released in 1998, and it's directed by Roland Emmerich, who is behind a lot of shit. 10,000 BC, 2012, Independence Day Resurgence, The Day After Tomorrow, which is fucking terrible. He has had some gems, though, with the original Independence Day and The Patriot. And this film stars Matthew Broderick, Jean Reno, Maria Pitillo, Hank Azaria, and Kevin Dunn. And it's also starring Zilla, which is what the original creators of Godzilla are calling him, because he's definitely not the original Godzilla. And this is episode 96 of Caleb Watches Movies, and today we are talking about my favorite guilty movie pleasure. And this is so guilty. Let me first start off with, guys, I know that this movie is bad. It is terrible. The CGI does not stand up today. The script, something left to be desired. And this version of Godzilla is almost offensive to the original creator. So offensive that after this movie came out, they made another Godzilla film where Godzilla beat up this version. Just a big fuck you to Roland Emmerich. But I cannot help it. I love this movie. I remember going to see this movie in theaters. Dad took all three of us boys. We got one of those huge tubs of popcorn with the movie's logo on it. This is really one of the first few times I remember going to the theater and thinking, this place is awesome. I want to go to the movies more. And I remember being terrified of Godzilla, because I also remember being terrified of the original Jurassic Park, which this film is definitely trying to be. It is trying to be a mixture of both Jurassic Park and Jaws. They steal a lot of the situations from Jurassic Park, and they steal a lot of the lines from Jaws. We're gonna need bigger guns. I can't help it. I love this movie. It's just something I can't explain. You just have to accept. Godzilla follows the story of a mutated iguana from French Polynesia. Due to a bunch of nuclear testing, he is now grown to 100 stories tall, and has somehow made his way over to New York City. Which, there's the first inconsistency. They draw it out on the map, and I'm going, this does not makes sense at all. And the military bring in Nick Tatopoulos, played by Matthew Broderick, who has done a lot of research on the effects of radiation with wildlife. Let me first start off by saying that the initial concept of Godzilla and this plot, I don't hate at all. I actually kind of buy it. I like the take that Godzilla is this mutated iguana, not this dinosaur that's been hiding for millions and millions of years. So in terms of that and the design of Godzilla, I actually don't mind. Godzilla in this movie looks like a mutated iguana. It's just everything else doesn't make sense. And at first, we go through the first half of this film without seeing Godzilla's face at all. We see his tail, we see his feet, but they kind of do the Mr. Wilson thing from Home Improvement where they kind of just cover his face or just pan away when his face is about to come on screen. And I remember the first time thinking, we're not going to get to see Godzilla's face. And then finally, halfway through the movie, we do. And then when we do first see his face, we see his face a lot. And not just his face, but also his little tiny babies. We see them a lot too. And they're trying to do their best impersonation of the raptors from Jurassic Park. They steal so much from those movies. Whenever Godzilla's walking around, they show water shaking, buildings shaking. They even do a parody of the Jaws deck scene. Emmerich was just like, hey, you know those two movies that were amazing? Well, here's my version of it. And then when we get to Madison Square Garden and we find the nest and all the eggs are hatching, it then becomes the final act of Jurassic Park, just in Madison Square Garden. Which, speaking of, I kind of like the idea of putting Godzilla in New York City. It's one of the busiest cities in the world. It's so compact and the buildings are huge. Thinking about it on paper, yeah, let's take Godzilla and put him in New York City and have him go wild. Oh, and then Roland Emmerich got his hands on it, and then every character in this thing became a stereotypical caricature. Nick Tatopoulos is the nerdy white guy. Audrey is the nice secretary who's trying to be more in her news reporting role. Animal's that typical New York guy who's always talking about how New York is great, New York is the best. And Philippe is your stereotypical Frenchman who is obsessed with coffee because the French are? I don't know. It's the running gag throughout the entire thing. Let me just say though, it's kind of weird watching this movie when it came out in 1998. I mean, the World Trade Center buildings are right there and Godzilla is running around them. And just to think that those buildings aren't there anymore, looking at it, it feels like, oh, wow. This film is dated. So this film, for the most part, is your stereotypical monster movie. Monster comes in, the military comes in, tries to take him out, and the monster somehow evades them every single time. But then this film tries to have sweet character moments and tries to become a romantic comedy halfway through the film. After like the second time that we see Godzilla, all of a sudden we see Matthew Broderick's character and Maria Pitillo's character getting back together from old college days. And they meet each other. I'd actually never realized this until this last viewing. They meet each other inside of a pharmacy that is still open. Earlier in the film, the mayor gave the order that the city is to be evacuated. And everyone, for the most part, has evacuated New York City. Except for this one pharmacist who has this little dinky pharmacy somewhere in the middle of Manhattan because, dang it, people need their pregnancy tests. I never got that until today. All of this chaos, Godzilla was literally just outside eating fish and being shot at from the military, and there's this little pharmacist just kind of sitting there, you know, counting the pills and making sure everything hasn't expired. God, this is one of the reasons why I love this thing. There's a stuttering lieutenant who's always trying to impress his senior officer, Kevin Dunn. I also never realized, but Roland Emmerich put in a parody of Siskel and Ebert in here. The mayor and his assistant. It's Mayor Ebert. Roger Ebert probably didn't like his films. And, you know, who's to blame him? But characters are so surface. The visual effects in here may have been revolutionary for the time. Nowadays, they don't hold up well at all. This is just another excuse for Roland Emmerich to blow shit up, which is something that he loves to do. I do think, though, this is one of his better films. He likes to take on the disaster movies where the disaster is something that you cannot fight. Day After Tomorrow, it was global warming. 2012, it was something. But when you have films like Independence Day and Godzilla, your antagonist is manifested right there in front of you, and you can actually fight it physically, as opposed to running away from global warming. It's like that South Park episode. Oh, it's global warming! It's coming! Guys, in the end, Godzilla is my favorite guilty movie pleasure. It's terrible. It is not good at all. I know that, but I cannot help having a great time watching it. The dialogue is laughable. These characters are so surface, and the CGI does not hold up at all. But I can't help remembering what a great time we had when we were in the theater watching it. There were times when I was scared. There were times when it was really funny, at least to like a 9-year-old me. If you have not seen this film before, I am not going to recommend that you go pick it up unless you're picking up a lot of beer and a lot of gin. Gin, which is the medicine for everything. So I'm going to give Godzilla 1.5 out of 5 Blu-rays.
No, sir, I didn't like it.
All right, everyone, so we are moving right along on our journey to episode 100 and beyond series, and next time we're going to be talking about my favorite classic film. And this film is not guilty at all, it is exceptional. And when I think classic, I'm thinking of anything prior to 1960, it's gotta be black and white. And this film, it is one location and it just has a bunch of people sitting around a table talking. And it's a beautiful representation of America and our judicial system. So everyone, have you seen Godzilla? What did you think about it? Or if you've never seen it before and you stumbled across it because of this video, please comment below, let me know what you thought about it. And when you're done commenting, please like and subscribe to my channel so you know the next time I'm posting my next movie review. So everyone, I will see you next time with my favorite classic movie. So in the meantime, be well, be good to each other, and go watch a movie. Take care, guys.